Hello everybody and welcome to Amphlett Reviews, back with another Japanese deep dive, diving a little bit more into that VCinema goodness for you guys. Fresh off the Arrow video box set from the VCinema collection, which I've done a load of reviews for, and now I do have the official box set as well, which is definitely worth supporting. If you want to see more of the VCinema collection down the line, definitely check out the reviews, definitely check out the box set. They are available on the Arrow video channel as well. But really enjoyed my time with the VCinema and seeing a whole different side of Japanese cinema from the more kind of low budget end, and finding some real fun gems along the kind of the scrappy nature of some of these kind of films. And I definitely had a blast watching them, and there's a couple more VCinema films that I want to check out more of. I've already dived into the XSX additional sequels, movies that came out, kind of anthology kind of based movies. And Lady Battlecop is definitely one that I want to check out, that I was really kind of impressed and intrigued by the poster of the film, this idea of a rip-off, obvious rip-off for RoboCop, of course, female version, but in that kind of low budget, kind of, 90s kind of, Japanese take on that material. And there are many other rip-offs and kind of inspired kind of, versions of RoboCop, of course. There are so many kind of movies in that kind of space that basically are trying to recapture that magic that RoboCop had for its time. Obviously within Robotrix Hong Kong, which is just very exploitation, very kind of category free within its kind of deliberate ideas there within in terms of its robotics, and it's very cheesy, it's very fun, over the top. I've seen I Love Maria, which I thought was fine. I thought it was very much in its kind of graphic novel sense in terms of RoboCop 2, in terms of some of its bigger ideas. Didn't quite hit the mark for me personally, but I understand what it was trying to go for, and that is very much a RoboCop rip-off, again, female version with some of the bigger ideas from Frank Miller's kind of, idea of RoboCop 2. And I want to check out this one, which is Lady Battlecop, released in '90, and this is basically a glorified, slightly higher budget Power Rangers episode with a female-led RoboCop, but not quite the same level of degree in terms of her capability compared to the original OG, of course, but still a goddamn lot of fun, to say the least. This one's directed by Akisuhiro Komoto, released in 1990, definitely around the boom of the VCinema kind of release model, which the very first one was released in 1999, and then from 1990 all the way to 1991 onwards, just a stream of these kind of low budget kind of VHS sort of kind of level quality based films with half the budget, and just making these, as the Toei producer would say for a lot of these films, fast, cheap, and delicious. And this one definitely does cater to that kind of saying as well. This is pretty fun. This is actually a lot of fun than I expected. Don't expect anything amazing necessarily in terms of story and characters. You're not really going to get it here. But to be fair, I didn't really expect that, if I'm being honest. This is very much a RoboCop in spirit in terms of its kind of formula. It has the kind of somewhere in the future, has a kind of a modern kind of, futuristic kind of city. You've got organized crime. You've got the sort of commentating kind of mockumentary of the news anchors talking about the crime, the cartels. You've got militia groups. You've got people going around shooting people into various different gangs, and you've got drugs, weapons, and you've got a high-tech kind of, cybernetic kind of firm also in the mix as well, which of course, something goes down really bad in terms of our main leading character. A situation happens where she basically is left for dead. She's been assaulted, she's got a knife in her back, and she's kind of been left in this kind of burning building essentially, and she's assumed gone and perished. And she's involved with a partner, someone who works in a cybernetic kind of company, conveniently of course, and also has a cop friend, also very convenient as well. But they make a very specific point that she is the second best tennis player for basically Japan at the time, I guess. Does this play into the story? Does this come back in some way? No, it does not. Cybernetically advanced and kind of alternated a little bit to basically kind of fit this kind of combat suit. Now, the interesting thing about this one is that compared to Murphy, where he got blown to pieces, and you see the raw kind of nature of that kind of practical effects, and his arm gone flying off and basically left for dead, and essentially is dead, essentially. It's just a consciousness of him survived through this kind of cybernetic kind of combat suit. In this one, she's basically a full woman, more or less, and she just has some cybernetic kind of enhancements in the back to kind of make her operate the suit, essentially. So she can take off the suit. There's a very clear scene where she's having a shower, and she can take off components and basically walk around. Yeah, that's kind of weird by itself, and the suit is essentially a glorified Power Rangers armor in the mannerism of a RoboCop style, in terms of her movement, in terms of how some of the components work in her kind of suit. Some of it doesn't make sense, but don't ask questions, just consume content. That's what the film is. Turn off your mind. It doesn't, you know, make a lot of sense at times in terms of story, characters. You know, there's a lot of suspension of disbelief in this film. I would say there's the tagline of Lady RoboCop, but to be honest, what are you expecting? This is a RoboCop rip-off for sure. It's actually just fine, more or less. You know, she doesn't have any major scars, she doesn't have any kind of disfigurement or anything. She's just a woman in a suit, and she's just doing these really impractical suspension of disbelief kind of sequences. And, you know, even towards the end of the film, when she takes the helmet off, she's just kind of, yeah, she's just fine. She's a beautiful Japanese woman, and that's it. It's just kind of, you know, oh, okay. It's just kind of hilarious. There's no kind of, you know, pain and suffering and torture that Murphy went to in RoboCop. So it has the identity and the feel of a RoboCop kind of, you know, blueprint, essentially, but they kind of go off in its own kind of territory. It has muscle-bound, screaming, you know, henchmen that have telekinetic powers for some reason, and is immune to bullets and various kind of things. So another kind of weird kind of experiment that isn't explained, that isn't kind of built up, it's just kind of there, while also having cartel organized crime with drugs and weapons. And you've got various characters that want to put a stop to all of it, and you've got Lady RoboCop on the scene taking out the trash. And is she operated by anyone particular? No, she's not. She's been given cybernetic kind of enhancements, a suit, and somehow a facility to kind of, you know, do repairs and rest, and no one's really noticed or really tracked her down necessarily. And it's funny at times because she's very much incompetent. She very much is just kind of turning up, killing a lot of people, and then getting defeated quite easily at times. And I know there is moments in films where the characters are meant to be pale or meant to be vulnerable kind of thing, but it happens a bit too frequently. But it does make up for its really cool practical effects. It makes up for it in terms of its wire work and its kind of imagination, and it has some really cool, laughable kind of ideas in terms of, she's a lady kind of, you know, RoboCop, so how do we make a lady? So we have her, give her an earring, which has a practical use, which I do appreciate. Her heels kind of help her turn, you know, launch a rocket launcher essentially from her hand. And there's some cool little components and gadgetry like that, which I think is pretty fun. Even her kind of battle armor kind of, you know, helmet kind of turns into a kind of a visor there, which is pretty fun. And yeah, she's just going around killing a lot of people, super easy, barely an inconvenience. It definitely has some moments of escalation, but not as much as I would have liked it to. But for an hour and a half film, this was breezy, a bit of fun. This is what it says on the tin. You know what to expect from the poster, you know what to expect overall. The fact that it is as good as it is surprising to me, and I'd say definitely go in with low expectations, have a bit of fun, have some popcorn. Definitely would be a good companion piece with other kind of VCinema films, maybe like it within the kind of the sci-fi genre aspect. I'm sure there's a few others that I haven't got access to watching, or maybe some recommendations there, but I can definitely see this being part of the later VCinema collection box set, and would make a good entry. Unfortunately, it does end on a somewhat cliffhanger. There is meant to be a teaser for another entry, but of course it never happened, which is surprising because a lot of those VCinema films, as mentioned previously, have all managed to get trilogies or various sequels, and I'm surprised this one didn't. You know, I don't know what the reason was for, but, you know, oh well. Are there any other in this kind of space within Hong Kong cinema, within Japanese cinema, outside of this, that you would recommend that I think is pretty fun? Check out. Please comment down below. So in the meantime, guys, I'm Amphlett Reviews. Sorry, yeah.